All right, today on the Paul Harrell program, we're going to talk about the recent news. The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, signing a letter sending the National Guard to Portland. What all does that mean? We're going to talk about it. Also, we've got the attorneys for the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson, in court today, earlier this morning. The judge says he wants all of these proceedings to be public moving forward, so that's certainly something we can talk about, as well as how so many people online are not quite buying everything. There are reports that there is voluminous digital records that the defense attorney for Tyler Robinson are going to receive, but we're going to dissect that and much, much more. Also, the whole country just seems to have been there's just so much violence going on right now, and we're going to talk about that too if we have time. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Rob Spencer. Rob, thank you so much.
Paul, it's an honor to be here, as always, on this Monday morning. Of course, my real estate business has been kind of crazy. I call it morning because it still feels like morning to me because my day is going to go.
Is it a morning or is it morning?
Morning, yes, M-O-U-R, M-O-U-R. Anyway, so essentially, I mean, look, what we're seeing here is everybody doing what they can to point the finger at somebody else. Now, that goes on both sides. Paul, if we're being honest about that goes on both sides, because people are trying to say, well, the shooter is this, the shooter is that, this person is evil, this person's evil. But the bottom line is we are a nation in chaos. And that chaos, unfortunately, is coming from the majority of that chaos is coming from one side. And we realize that. Now, they won't admit that. The left will never admit that they are the party of violence. The left will never admit that they are the party of living in a fairy tale with their, men can be women, all of that stuff.
Right.
The left will never admit that. However, the facts back that up. Whether this guy was a right-wing extremist or not, I agree with people. If this guy was a right-wing extremist, we've got to call that out.
Yeah.
We've got to call that out. I'm listening to an audiobook. Oh, sorry, my shirt popped open here. Well, it's because I did chest today.
Yeah, there you go.
I did chest workout today at the gym.
Start a fund for small or larger shirts.
Yes, I'm bursting out of my chest. Anyway, But when we're looking at that, I'm listening to an audiobook that talks about right-wing extremists, and we're talking about white supremacy. It was an undercover agent. I mentioned this last week, and he went undercover and he infiltrated biker gangs. His name is Scott Payne. And incredible audiobook. Like it just blew my mind, because I don't really think of white supremacy as being a problem. White supremacy is a problem. Now, it's a seedy underbelly that's happening right now, but left-wing extremism is in the streets. Yeah. It is happening right now. They are attacking ICE facilities. They are making it where our men and women of law enforcement are not safe.
It's not even comparable, honestly. And the reason I say that is just because, the media is not cheering on white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? It's such an apples and oranges comparison, because, the media is literally, they're, say what you want, they're full-blown communists. They've bought into the leftist idea. They clap like seals. The stochastic terrorism, as we've looked up on the show before, and that's what we're facing right now. And we're seeing it, we're seeing it spill over into the streets. And because you don't just have, how many shootings? It was a month ago you had the military base shooting in Georgia. Then we have the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Then we had, over the weekend, a boat, like a dock restaurant in North Carolina.
Right.
And interestingly enough, the guy they arrested for that was at the same military base as the guy that did the suspect in the Utah case.
Shocking.
So that's weird. But former military, obviously, they served in Iraq. We're both Marines. You got to imagine a lot of potential PTSD or something like that.
Right.
But all of this is all of it. It's just. I honestly, now that there's these other shootings in the news, knowing the media the way I do, and knowing that there's now people saying that this guy, especially the guy in Michigan, not Utah, the guy in Michigan, had a lot of hatred for the Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, and thought that they were the Antichrist. That's,
who are literally the nicest people on the face of the planet,
but
right?
That's now the narrative, and I can just tell what's about to happen. Memory hole Charlie Kirk. Quit talking about Charlie Kirk. Quit talking about Tyler Robinson. Quit talking about how there's a lot of people that want the story of the shooter, of the assassin, to make sense. And right now we still don't have any sort of evidence that he was actually holding the gun, right? Which you'd think they would release something like that.
There's a lot of fishy stuff
I don't
want
to do I'm just being honest here, and because I think this is the new form of objective journalism, is being honest with your point of view. I don't want to necessarily do the work of the left by trying to memory hold and ignore this public assassination that we saw, and I think that's what the left-wing media is about to do because of these recent shootings.
Charlie Kirk's life is not more valuable than the lives that we've lost. Since.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
But his impact in terms of what he meant to a movement, and a movement of, we are a divided country. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Let's not just box each other out. Because what do you see? What do you see when you see, a Turning Point USA event on a college campus? You see, like, you shouldn't be here. Your words are violence.
Yeah.
Folks, words are not violence. Violence is violence. And so you are trying to box out dialogue. You are trying to box that stuff out. And Charlie Kirk just said, hey, whoever disagreed with me the most, come to the front of the line. That's what we need more of. Not this, I disagree with you, so you shouldn't be allowed to talk.
Yeah.
That's where they get so... Oh, it makes me so mad, because you were trying to say, like, you shut down dialogue. You and I, if we disagreed with somebody, if somebody was sitting across that table from us, Paul, and they were on the left, and they disagreed with everything that we said, we would have a respectful dialogue with them.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right. Now, we would disagree, and we probably wouldn't change each other's minds about stuff, but maybe we would. Maybe honestly, we would change each other's minds about one or two things. But that's what Charlie Kirk was trying to do. He was trying to say, like, this, the mainstream media has told you this lie. Your professors at this college that I'm at right now have told you this lie. Let's break it down. Why do you believe what you believe? Do you believe it because you were told to believe it, or do you believe it because it's a core value to you?
Yeah.
Okay? And if that is not the case, if it's not a core value, then let's examine why you believe what you believe. And that's what Charlie Kirk wanted to do. And they shot and killed him for it. So his life is not more valuable than anybody else's, but his message is lost right now. And what are we having to see? We're seeing the Megyn Kellys of the world. We're seeing the Ben Shapiros of the world. We're seeing Erica Kirk herself stepping up to try to fill that void. You can't, as great as their intentions are, there was one Charlie Kirk.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? And there was only so much that can be done. The left and why I keep asking myself this, and I want to say it online and stuff. Why is the left so violent?
Yeah.
Can you not just talk?
Yeah, no. I know, and I totally get what you're saying. I still go back to the way I felt when we all saw what happened to Charlie. I still go back to the way I felt, and we got to get to Portland, because I think this is directly related to all of this, and it's essentially the people that want action, the people that want the violence of the left to be called out, the people that fund Antifa, the people that give the money to put the pallet of bricks there for the protests that we saw in 2020 and, and burning down cities and that sort of thing. There is lawlessness in our country. And with the indictment of James Comey, which, by the way, you and I haven't gotten to talk about
Correct.
because that happened right after we interviewed Congressman Rick Crawford last week about whether or not James Comey was going to be indicted. He basically got indicted the next day. So that was certainly interesting. And we talked
Sure.
about how the lack of accountability for the criminals at the upper echelons of the Intel oligarchy, the lack of accountability there only emboldens the left, right? So there's lawlessness all around.
There has to be
So
perp walks.
right
Yeah.
now, again, we're at a situation where both sides think they have the moral high ground.
Sure.
And unfortunately, that is not true. I believe our side clearly has the moral high ground, but they don't think that. And so the only way to make them stop is and this is for the good of our side, is for the government that is in charge, that has the authority right now to actually have the intestinal fortitude to reinstate law and order. And they're going to say that's fascism. That's what they're going to say. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I don't think the talking it out, which I agree we need more of, certainly at college campuses and everything else, and there's this groundswell. People are turning to Christ in the wake of Charlie's assassination, and all of that's good, and I'm really optimistic. But in the meantime, there's some people out there that are not going to be convinced.
Yeah.
They're going to continue to take to the streets, and they don't like America. They don't like that a majority of Americans have rejected their worldview, in the last election.
Well, they don't like America. I would go as far as to say that many of them hate America, but I go back to what I was just saying. Do they hate America because they were told to hate America, or do they hate America because they actually hate America?
Yeah.
Because one of those is correctable, right? And if they hate America because they were told to hate America, then let's break down your argument the same way that Charlie Kirk would.
Yeah.
Whoever the new messenger is that steps in and takes that role, let's break that stuff down. But if you just hate America, then just leave.
Well, and to
Just leave.
Yeah, to that point though, yes, I'm not saying there's nobody out there that needs to have their liberalism shattered and challenged, and that they can't be convinced they are. But the people that celebrated his death, the people that literally celebrated the death,
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, okay, that's the element that has got to be targeted.
Yeah, you've got a vile heart.
Can you come back from that? Yeah, I mean,
know.
with
I don't
the
know,
Lord
man.
can redeem anybody.
I agree with that.
I know you
but
agree
at
with
the
that.
same-
All I'm saying is it's not impossible. I'm just trying to say when that is reared its ugly head, it has to be dealt with, and that's what Americans are wanting, and that brings us to Portland. I really do believe that's one of the things that brings us to Portland. So
Portland, who has been a garbage truck.
Oh my goodness!
Literally, it's been a garbage truck for 5 years.
I was looking at images of somebody just walking down a pedestrian tunnel, and I'm like, oh my! And I'm sure there's places like this in every city, but it just the filth was
It's just
incomprehensible.
brutal.
So I guess this is Benny Johnson yesterday.
Hold on.
Yeah.
A study showed that less than 2% of Portland residents consider themselves to be Christians. And
Wow, that
I
says
was
a lot.
like,
Wow.
well,
So the National Guard is potentially going to the least Christian city in America right now.
less than 2%.
And Portland was the place during BLM that they set up their own little community.
Yeah.
Chads.
Summer of Love.
Yeah.
Summer of Love.
The
with that
autonomous
bullshit.
community where people were raped.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
they
it was-
were raped. Yeah, and there were multiple people died
Yep.
during that, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And that was the biggest amount of lawlessness. And the mayor came out and said, "Oh, it's the summer of love."
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. Ask the business owners if they're loving what's going on
or
right
they-
now.
yeah.
The people that were shut down and lost their entire livelihood because a bunch of white, blue-haired liberals, Antifa, decided that they were going to take over an entire several blocks here, and they were going to take it over and say, well, this is ours now. Like, are we in the United States?
I know.
When
And-
the hell does this ever happen and was allowed to continue?
Well, and what does that say about where we are, because you and I were talking about that one account, the older millennial who has come out against Trump sending troops to Chicago.
I feel like he has to, because he drew a line after Washington,
D.C. He
said
he was for it for Washington because it's a federal district, but he's not against this. And I listened to his argument, and I totally get his argument.
Sure.
I totally get it.
And I agree on a lot of
rights. Okay, I get it. Like, that's what he's saying. And obviously there's, the precedent that it could set, I don't know, what's the left going to do when they get in power? Are they going to indict a former president?
I don't give a shit. Here. Oh, excuse my language. I don't care what the left is potentially going to do once they get in power. I don't care anymore, because we've done that as Republicans and conservatives.
That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. For years and years and years, Paul, you've been at this a whole lot longer than I have. Why in the world are we shuddering in fear from what the Dems are going to do once they get in power? Because we've seen what they'll do when they get in power. They're going to destroy the country. We're going to have liberal social programs that enable them to have more power and keep power. That's their only goal.
Yeah, and then
let's be honest, Paul. Everything that the Dems do in terms of, do you think they care about some poor homeless woman from Guatemala? Do you think the Democrats care about that, Paul?
I do not think that.
They don't care about some homeless person who's got 5 kids from Guatemala. All they care about is she's going to come here and illegally vote and keep them in power. If they can come and give her a check and feed her kids and support her children, that's what they care about. They are not some altruistic, we are here for God's purpose, and God's purpose says...
Well, they certainly say that.
The Guatemalans, the Colombians, all of these people who are coming here, we have 1 in 5 children go to bed hungry every night in the United States. American citizens, 1 in 5 go to bed every night hungry. And we want to feed the rest of the world? We are the richest nation in the world, and we can't even feed our own people? You think the Democrats care about a homeless, hungry person from Guatemala? Am I trying to villainize that person? No. They have I understand their desire to come here. It's the richest nation in the world. Come here. Come for the better life. It's about America. But you want to tell me that the Democrats care about it? Bull. What the Democrats care about is retaining power. And if they can bring that person in, keep them on the government tit, then they get to keep their power longer. That's all they care about.
No, I mean, I totally agree with you, and that's exactly where I was going. The argument of, what are they going to do when they get in power? You're right. We have to abandon that. And so that's my whole point here, is in the midst of the violence, in the midst of everything we've seen, from Antifa all the way to, framing President Trump for treason and the color revolution that the intel agencies, operated against us for the last 10 years. They've got to use the power they have. And if they don't, it will be the biggest betrayal, not just of, well, you said you would do this and when you ran. And they are starting the process, it seems, with James Comey. But if they don't, it means the destruction of the country. You know what I mean? Like, the stakes I cannot stress this enough, the stakes could not be higher, because it really does mean the end of the country if they do get back in power. And so that's why...
Oh, yeah, the midterms are...
This branch of liberalism has got to be run out of town on a rail, consigned to the dustbin of history.
So what has to happen here is we've got to get back to the Bill Clinton liberals, even first-term Obama liberals. That's what we've got to get back, because I believe a two-party state is beneficial.
Is that possible, though?
I don't think so, because I think that they've gone so damn crazy with their AOCs. Honestly, I'm not going to lump Bernie Sanders in here, because I think in Bernie Sanders' heart of hearts, even though he hates millionaires and billionaires, although he is a millionaire, mm-hmm. Like I think in his heart of hearts, he's not trying to burn the whole system down. I really don't think that he is. And I believe people like Ilhan Omar, whatever her face is, Presley, the squad. I believe that the squad would burn it all down and say, my way is better.
Yeah.
And I'll build it back up. They're the ones that are going to go to the polls in New York and vote for a communist socialist.
Yeah, a Marxist.
A Marxist, there you go, for mayor. They are going to make the most powerful city in the world.
Yeah.
They are going to put a communist Marxist in charge of that city to try to burn it all down. Don't tell me we should put them back in power.
No, I completely agree. I wonder, I just had a thought, one of the ways that you could do this, because, as you were sitting there mentioning AOC and Ilhan Omar, I might even put Ilhan Omar in a totally different class than AOC.
Yeah, she's worse.
Most of their opinions, and you can
AOC.
say this for the right, but most of the policies they're advocating for, they advocate for because it makes them money.
Yeah. Well,
and so if we could also, as part of a comprehensive way, let's go after the funding of the Democrat Party. Like, who is funding the Democrat Party? Because if there's not money for those opinions and for those and I know that sounds like, that sounds fascist or whatever. I'm not saying that. I think the Democrat Party gets their money illegally in a lot of instances. You go to Act Blue.
Oh, Act Blue,
and how
yeah.
they didn't turn off their credit card for
Yeah.
foreign donations and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So if the money dries up, I mean, you say, I'm trying to think, well, how would you get back to a Democrat Party that isn't crazy like the way it is now? I don't think it's possible, but the only way it would be possible is to make those crazy ideas not profitable. It's just simply not profitable for them, because somebody like AOC and others, they need the campaign money, but then they need to get in office so that they can enrich themselves, because we know once you get into Congress, your portfolio, your stock portfolio, goes through the roof. So
if we honestly, look at this, Paul. To your point, could we say for every stance that you have, it has to be justified with your net worth? And here's what I'm talking about. That goes on both sides. If you're a Republican or a Democrat and you got into office with a such and such net worth, and it is, so let's just say your net worth was $500,000 and it is now $40 million, every stance that you have has to go through that filter of, wait a minute, so what does this mean for your net worth? You want to pass this legislation. What does this mean for your net worth? Yeah. Okay, because here's the thing. The AOCs of the world, who was a former bartender, right? The Nancy Pelosi's of the world, who is the best stock trader in the world. She's like, why? Honestly, if you're stock trading, why not just follow Nancy Pelosi's stock trade?
Yeah.
At this point,
there's an app that does that.
Oh yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah.
So if you're saying to me that you want to do this, and this, it needs to go through the lens of what is your net worth compared to when it started in Congress. Yeah. Now, there are rich people who come into Congress, right? I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember any, but I know that there are folks who come into Congress and they're already independently wealthy. They were already, and they're just trying to do a public service. Okay, cool. I'm going to listen to you a little closer than someone who came in with bunch of back rent that they've owned, that they owe, and now they're worth, $40 million. I'm not really listening to you when you want to talk about you need to do this, and this, and this.
Well, and that, you go back to Portland being 2% Christian and, look at their city. I mean, I think that is a really interesting statistic. But if we're going to tie it in with stock trading, I would just say, if you've got a lot of people that don't believe lying is a problem or lying is a sin, and those tend to be people who are not Christians, not to say that, people don't make mistakes, and they do. There are hypocrites out there. But I just would say, I don't know what kind of stock legislation could ever be effective. I really don't. I think it depends. I think we're trying to fix a problem that is only going to be fixed when you have people who believe they're personally accountable to a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you ban Congress from buying and trading stocks, can you ban their kids? Can you ban their
No,
spouses?
they would find work.
What about their
workarounds.
uncles? Can you ban your cousin who meets you at Thanksgiving and gets a nice tip for what stock they need to
Yeah,
invest in?
how many Bidens were on these shell companies?
I just don't see how there is an effective way, and maybe there's people a lot smarter than me out there. Maybe there is. I just don't see how you can actually ban these people from enriching themselves. I think the only way to do it would be to have somebody with honor and integrity in the office. That's it. That's it.
Or, which is would explain why they've gone after Trump so much, somebody in office as the president who doesn't need your money,
And doesn't take a salary.
who doesn't care about you paying him a bunch of money to influence him.
Yeah.
Because he's already a billionaire.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that is why they've gone after him so hard. Do I disagree with some of the stuff that he says and does? Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about it in our church group on Sunday. How, hey, I agree with your policy, Trump. Will you please quit calling her a fat pig? This or that, right? Like, quit.
The Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, the Rosie O'Donnells of the world. Although not a nice person, not a great person, all of that stuff. But like, can you govern without doing that stuff? And he would argue, hey, I've got to do that because that I'm facing the full force of the MSM, right? Like I'm trying to fight back against this. Now, I also think it's because he's a little thin-skinned on some stuff, and you come after that man publicly, he's going to go after you, right? And so all of these Democrats are goading him, including Eric Swalwell, who is the biggest douchebag, in one of the biggest douchebags in Congress.
Yeah, to your point, I always said that.
We've got to talk about Portland.
I know, but I think, let's just talk about Portland. Yeah. So here's a memorandum from the Adjutant General of the Oregon National Guard through the Governor of Oregon, calling members of the Oregon National Guard into federal service. On June 7th, 2025, the President of the United States called forth at least 2,000 National Guard personnel into federal service pursuant to Section 12406 of Title 10 U.S. Code to protect U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and U.S. government personnel who are performing federal functions, including the enforcement of federal law, and to protect federal property at locations where protests against these functions are occurring or are likely to occur based on current threat assessments and planned operations. The President signed a copy of the attached memorandum to effectuate the calling forth of these service members. The memorandum further implements the President's direction. 200 members of the Oregon National Guard will be called into federal service effective immediately for a period of 60 days. So this is big news. Obviously, we'll see what happens with it. This is just a sign. This is just one video that we can play you. This is Antifa. For the first time in 3 months, Portland police are making arrests during ICE protests. If Portland wants to keep the troops out, this is all they needed to do, protect the workers and the property. Simple. But, of course, the police is they've been under these, directives to not enforce the law because of politics. But here we see them at least trying to do some arrests. So there is a lead discussion of, I get it, states' rights. Back to the older millennials talk about how he's against the federal troops going in. He's against this. I understand it, but I just think to myself, at what point are you at we think, and Tim Pool is the guy that says this, that we think of a civil war, but a modern-day civil war isn't where people line up in blues and grays and shoot each other. That's not what it would look like today. It would look like what happened yesterday happens every day, where a Charlie Kirk happens every day, where it's happening every single day. That's what it would look like. And so at what point, as much as I'm from the South and as much as Southerners don't like Abraham Lincoln for what he did to the Constitution, suspending habeas corpus and that sort of thing. The history says he had to destroy the Union in order to preserve the Union or whatever. At what point does the Abraham Lincoln precedent come into play and we say, are we going to be a united country or not? The United States of America, does it actually mean anything, or are we going to just have cities that can just be lawless? And we've also talked about the ability of the president to sleep at night, knowing he has the authority to save the good people of Portland that are being basically terrorized because we have these woke politicians that don't want to enforce the law over politics, over skin color in a lot of ways.
The mayor of Portland, she had a statement where she came out and said, of course she's the, what do you want to call it? The
DEI.
She's straight from Central Casting on,
I don't even know. I don't even know
liberal
what she looks
lunatic.
like. Okay.
Oh yeah, just Google her and you'll see. But anyway, she's coming out and she's just trying to say, oh yeah, Portland and Oregon, the state of Oregon is just fantastic. We're beautiful. Portland is just a mecca of peace and calmness and all of that. And you're like, okay. I've seen some videos that might counteract what you're saying there,
gaslighting.
You want to talk about gaslighting. You hate Trump more than you love the country, your state, and certainly your city. You hate Trump more than that. And we've seen that with liberal policies. Some idiot was talking about, the North Carolina person and maybe it was Benny Johnson. I don't know whoever posted it, and it was like, "Hey, this is what liberal policies will do." And some liberal lunatic on X said, "That's in a red state." Well,
I saw that. I saw that.
First of all, to call North Carolina a red state, that is as purple as it can be. It is a fighting ground, right? You Republicans cannot
sleep on it.
It's
not a sure
for sure.
thing.
Like it's not an Arkansas, right? Arkansas is going to go red. But anyway, so and it looked at it and was like, wait a minute, the dude was arrested 14 times. A person, a judge, I'm going to put that in quotes, who had never even went to law school, wasn't a lawyer, and was just appointed, made this crazy dude sign a piece of paper promising he's going to come back to court, right? So no bail. And a girl is dead. And he goes, well, now the conservatives care about immigrants. And to put it, to top it all off, it was a Ukrainian immigrant.
Irina Zaruska.
Yeah. And it was like, wait a minute. You're trying to gloss over the fact that your liberal policies of letting these criminals out with these no cash bonds in a blue city of Charlotte, you are trying to say that that's a Republican problem.
Yeah.
You need to have an honest conversation with yourself, because every single solitary blue city that has a crime problem can be in a red state. Sometimes it's in a blue state, but it's always a blue city with a Democrat mayor who is soft on crime, judges, prosecutors, soft on crime. When you are hard on this crime, okay, then you are a deterrent. We've seen that in Washington, D.C. when the National Guard was going through the streets, and everybody's like, Jasmine Crockett and her stupid face said, well, the cops, their job is to arrest people. It's not to deter crime.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, you lunatic?
Yeah, kind of going back to what you were saying earlier about, the Democrat Party from the 90s, or even an Obama liberal, which, that's even a stretch for me. But, going back to
first term.
Yeah, the basic, both parties agreed that, if you break the law, you're going to jail. We're going to throw the book at you. They didn't care, right? I mean, there was still some lawlessness, but it wasn't near to the time where once they got into the critical race theory that the entire system is corrupt and racist.
Who was the author of the crime bill in the 90s? Joe Biden.
Oh yeah.
Right?
There you go. I forgot about that.
The term super predator.
It's just
kind of from Joe Biden.
It's just wild to me that, as I sit here listening to you, and I'm just like, man, it's a basic. It used to be like a bedrock principle that if you broke the law, you'd go to jail, and now you've got this party that's abandoned this. And I know people have said it, and I've known it, but to actually hear it, I don't know, just kind of like, I can't believe they've I can't believe they've lasted as long as they have by just abandoning a basic fundamental principle of government.
The media is the only thing that has
what
allowed
they've
them
got, yeah.
because
They don't
honestly,
cover it.
if MSNBC, CNN, now ABC, CBS, NBC, if they were either middle of the road or slightly right leaning, these people with these fundamental radical ideas wouldn't exist. And if they did, they would be such on the fringe minority that nobody would be listening to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Right? And these would be the same people like protesting the Vietnam War and all of that stuff. Like they would be on the fringe that nobody's really listening to. Okay, should we have been in Vietnam? That's not what. That's a
Right.
that's
No, I
a
see what
different
you're saying.
conversation. But anyway, they would have been on the fringe. And what has happened is you watch MSNBC. If you're on the right,
It's
watch
tough.
MSNBC. It's tough, right?
It's
But
really tough.
listen to every story is not what actually happened, the positives. It is what did the conservatives do to destroy the country today? That's literally every story.
And that's what they would say about us on Fox
They-
News during
they-
Obama. They would say everything about Biden is about what he did to destroy the country today.
I would agree.
I don't.
that
That's what I'm saying.
okay. So if you look at the media personalities on Fox News, let's just go with Fox News. Okay, tell me Brett Baer.
Yeah.
Tell me
no,
what
no, no.
his-
I
you
think
know,
you can
and-
make an argument that Fox News probably does more straight news than MSNBC.
Sure.
But
But you got
they're
the Sean
never-
but
Right.
they've also got the Sean
Right,
Hannitys
and they're
of the
they're
world.
never going to believe. They're never going to even believe that. And I have huge problems with Fox News. I think that, but that's just me.
Sure.
Maybe they're just not far right enough for me. But I
You
guess,
like the Sean Hannitys
I guess.
of the world.
Well, no, Hannity's. I'm not a huge fan of Hannity. But what I would say is, to my point earlier, both sides think they have the moral high ground. So whatever allegation we can launch at them, they launch right back at us.
How do you have the?
That's
I
what
get
I'm
it, but
saying.
How do you have the moral high ground if your side is murdering people?
Or celebrating the death when somebody
Or
does get murdered.
celebrating
Because
the
likewise, even if these guys were on the right, Michigan or North Carolina, these veterans, none of us are celebrating
We're
the
not
death
celebrating
and burning of a church.
Minnesota,
Yeah,
we weren't celebrating that.
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. We weren't celebrating it. We were highlighting that it was a trans person at the Catholic school.
No, I'm talking about
Oh,
the
the
Minnesota
state representative.
state rep,
Yeah,
and
senator,
like
yeah.
and that was killed by
Exactly.
what appears to be a right wing person who was upset, like.
Even though the guy worked for Tim Walz.
Even though he worked for
I
Tim
don't buy
Walz,
that story.
that's still up there. But let's just go with their media,
Yeah, go
with their narrative.
None of us are celebrating when that stuff
We're not
happens.
celebrating it.
And then we get mocked for trying to pray for them. So in the middle of Portland, a brave patriot wearing a MAGA hat and carrying an American flag.
He's the anecdote.
Yeah, this was interesting.
Oh, hey, I seen you on YouTube. I was watching on.
Well, I want to screen this for language. So anyway, there's a guy that shows up in the midst of all these protesters.
Wearing a MAGA hat.
Yeah,
and he's walking through the crowd here.
and then they interview a guy. I was talking about maybe a person who's being oppressed who lives in Portland.
Yeah.
This is what he said.
So happy that Trump is sending the National Guard in here. I live in this building. We both live in this building. We've been asking for help for months, and we're finally going to get it.
When do you think they're coming?
When? Not soon enough, man. Not soon enough.
What do you want to see happen?
I want him to come in and mess them up, and just annihilate these people. Whatever force they need. Gals like her and the other people that live in the building. Watch out. They're the ones. They're the ones that I'm concerned about. So.
I want you to listen to the language there. Whatever they got to do, I want them to annihilate the people. And then at first I'm like, oh, but then he turns and he looks at this woman.
Yeah.
I guess is she in a wheelchair or she's sitting down? And
I'm not really sure.
I can't tell, but she lives in the building, and he's like, this is why, because there are people that want peace and they're not getting peace because nobody will do anything about it. And so this is what happens when lawlessness gets to this point and the chaos reigns. People no longer care how you deal with it.
Paul, tell me who should be afraid of the National Guard when they come in?
Criminals,
Violent
criminals,
or people who are trying to create chaos.
Yep.
You know, whether they commit a crime to do that or they just want chaos. Why are you afraid of the National Guard? If you're, it's kind of like if you're pulled over by a police officer, and you know, if you're high on some pills or you've drank a fifth of Crown Royal before you got pulled over or whatever, then you've got a reason to be nervous about stuff. But if you're not doing anything wrong, then what are you nervous about? The National Guard, then that means they're going to be bored. If there's no need for the National Guard there, they're going to be bored. There's nothing's going to happen. They're coming there for a reason, Paul. And we know that they're coming there for a reason because what they see is chaos in the streets. They see these demonstrators who are turning to violence against these ICE facilities. My God, we saw Ice Cube's tour bus get it wasn't blown up, but they were going after Ice Cube, the rapper. They were going after his tour bus because it said ICE on it.
Are you serious?
Oh, that is 100% happened.
I hadn't heard that.
These freaking morons. They didn't even know that Ice Cube was on tour, and they blew it. They tried to blow up his.
That.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, I believe you.
They were throwing stuff. You can look at that, but anyway. But the bottom line is, what do you care? If you're not doing anything wrong, then what do you care if the National Guard are walking through the streets?
Well, it's because you've not been proselytized by Dylan Blaha.
Okay, first of all,
meet Mr. Blaha, U.S. Army veteran.
You know, you want to talk about central casting here.
The U.S. Army veteran Dylan Blaha tells all members of the U.S. military to disobey the order. This guy is running for office in Illinois, I'm told. And this is what he said.
My name is Captain Dylan Blaha, and this message is for all U.S. military service members, especially every general and admiral meeting with Pete Hegseth on Tuesday. I'm a 13-year U.S. Army veteran who served in Afghanistan and wrote war plans while stationed at U.S. Army Europe. This morning, Donald Trump directed Pete Hegseth to deploy the U.S. military to Portland, Oregon. This is the latest illegal attempt to normalize the use of the military in U.S. cities. He authorized the military to use, quote, full force. This is authoritarianism. This is fascism. The U.S. military is not a law enforcement force, and all federalized service members must abide by the Posse Comitatus Act. All members of the United States military must disobey illegal orders. I was just following orders is not a valid defense against war crimes. Grow a spine and stand up for your fellow Americans. Otherwise, you are complicit in this fascist takeover. We're running out of time.
Once again, with the rhetoric about fascism.
Here's what I know to be 100% fact. Dylan is not single. Okay.
You don't think so?
No. He's got a crazy ass liberal girlfriend or wife.
Or boyfriend.
Could be that too. One of them. And because he looks like he is reading from a script. He 100% is reading from a script.
Well, if he's running for office, I don't know what office in Illinois. I had another...
He's running for
that's
office?
What I thought. Libs of TikTok said he was running for an office in Illinois. The question is, this guy says it's a crime to do what he just did. I mean, he's a veteran. He's not in the service. I don't know if that's the case or not.
So,
is that a crime?
Well, I did read this thing that if you are a former officer, so not just normal enlisted, if you're a former officer, if you are encouraging others to break orders and not follow orders, that you are subject to court-martial.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this guy,
he's a captain, right?
Yeah, he's the very definition of someone who is
an officer.
Yeah, who is trying to, get people, encourage people to not follow orders.
Incredible.
Okay. Now, the National Guard has not been authorized. They've not been encouraged to open fire on random citizens.
No.
Okay? You stupid people. They are not, they've not been told to go in there and just blow them up. Blow them all up. No. They've been told to go and keep law and order from this lawless group of Antifa who has been designated designated as a terrorist organization, regardless of what the ADL tells us. Have you seen that? The
No.
Anti-Defamation League?
What did they say?
They totally redefined Antifa is, they're a protest group, but they're generally not violent. Okay?
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And then you look up what their definition of a Christian is.
Yeah, I know. I saw
Yeah.
that. Now I did see that. That
Yeah.
ADL basically thinks being a Christian
Yes.
is you're a bigot or
That's right.
You're a hate group.
And so somebody would argue that they were talking about the Christian whatever it's called. But regardless, they're trying to say that it was the white supremacist group, that identifies as Christians, because there are white supremacists who identify as Christians, and they believe that the white race is the superior race and all that stuff. That's what the ADL is going to hold to. But they cannot whitewash, for lack of a better term, away their definition of what Antifa is. Because we've seen Antifa. Antifa and BLM destroyed this country, or attempted to, in 2020. So you can't tell me that they are generally
isn't that
nonviolent.
Isn't that just reiterating the meme of the MSNBC guy? It wasn't a meme; it was a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a mostly peaceful
CNN.
protest.
It was CNN.
Yeah, with the building
freaking
on
fire
Yeah,
behind them.
Yeah, I mean, so
mostly it's
ADL.
fiery, but
Yeah.
mostly peaceful.
mostly peaceful.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain
Yeah.
back there, because there's no fire here.
Oh my goodness, absolutely nuts, man.
Idiots.
So yeah, well, you get what you get what you get. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I am not just along the same lines of you saying, like, we've got to reject this. Well, what are the Dems going to do when they get in power? Well, we know what they do. We know it will. We know it will be worse. But so we've got to reject that from that standpoint. But I think we also have to reject, the people are saying, well, the Constitution this or the Constitution that, and I cannot believe that I'm saying this, but what does the Constitution matter if the Dems, when they're in power, don't have to abide by it and can put people in jail and run their intel operations against the American people, then nothing happens. Yeah. So I guess the point is, if you want to have a chance at that document meaning anything in the near future, I don't care that he's sending the National Guard to Portland or Chicago or anywhere else. That's where I'm at with it.
Well, let me ask you this. If Trump goes to the Supreme Court and loses, is he going to accept that?
I don't know. There's another question for you. I
think you would. I think you would.
Yeah.
Especially with it being a 6-3 court.
Yeah.
Realistically 5-4.
Well, there's other things you can do. You can defund those lawless states.
Yeah.
You could start that.
But if he is sent to the Supreme Court and he loses, I think Trump accepts the court. What he doesn't accept is rogue liberal judges doing these nationwide injunctions.
Right.
To become, they are putting themselves as president.
Yes.
And Amy Coney Barrett, who's released this book, she has talked about that in interviews. What we saw was these rogue federal judges who were putting themselves in place of the commander in chief, and that's not what there has to be a separation between the judicial branch, the legislative branch, and the executive branch. And we've seen that too, where people are legally challenging whether the executive branch can fire people in the executive branch. How the hell do you have any sort of leg to stand on when you have the judicial branch stepping into the legislative branch? The executive branch.
Right. So those judges should have just been like, I'm dismissing the case.
Correct.
There's no standing here.
There's
I have
no standing
authority
here.
To tell the
I'm in the
executive.
judicial branch. He's trying to fire people in the executive branch. He's in the executive branch. There's nothing I can do. But they weren't doing that.
Right.
They were doing these nationwide injunctions, and so the Supreme Court they threw water on that and said, "Hey, we can't do that." But I think if Trump goes to the Supreme Court and loses, he's going to accept that. What we saw under the Biden administration was, we think this is a rogue court, so now we're going to go back to the drawing board and we're just going to find a workaround to it. We're going to get around the Supreme Court. And that's what we saw over and over and over again. But right now, you've got the judicial branch that is trying to override and run the executive branch, that's not what our Constitution calls for.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about Charlie Kirk. Here is the judge in the case saying that he plans to make all hearings public.
In regards to the next hearing, counsel, on that October 30th date at 10 a.m., it's the court's intent that it be in person if it be the wish of counsel for the defense for Mr. Robinson to be present.
It is, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
In regards to the next hearing...
But the biggest thing is that he wants all hearings to be public.
Yep.
Right? And so this will be, if OJ was the trial of the century, this one's going to be in there. And the dude's going to take a plea. And he's going to take a plea to try to save his life, but I hope that they don't offer him that.
Well, if he did it, yes, I agree. And I'm willing to go out there right now and say that
I've got some questions.
I've got questions.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad it's going to be public because I want to see all of the evidence.
Sure.
I don't understand the story. The story that they're selling us does not make sense to me. I could be wrong, but it doesn't make sense.
I don't understand the video from the side that showed a chair going through a table.
Yeah, I've
like
heard,
literally physically transposed through it.
Yeah, and that's going down a deep rabbit hole, Rob. But
Yeah.
that somebody tried to explain that. I don't know, something about resolution or something. I don't know if that's true or not. Again, there are so many things. There's so many questions out there online, and there are so many people. There's so many videos. From
Is
all
that
angles.
him jumping off of that building?
This is
with no gun in his hand.
Okay, thank you. Like those are the basic questions that I want answered. Just those. Like I don't even have to get down that. Like, yes, do I want to see the footage that Turning Point has behind him that allegedly has been turned over to the FBI? Yes. Do I want to? But I just want to understand the whole process. The narrative that he disassembled the rifle, but he's jumping off that roof like seconds after the shot fires. He's running off the roof, Rob, before we see throngs of people running. Right.
So let me throw this out at you. the book depository.
Yeah.
Right.
We're watching. I feel like we're living through what our parents did.
So we see and hear about this assassination. If you will go down that rabbit hole, and what did we have? It was called the Magic Bullet. Magic Bullet that went into Kennedy, shimmied and shaked.
Yep.
Right? And then went into the back seat of the convertible and goes into the governor, right? Because it was the governor that was riding with him, correct? The governor of Texas.
I don't know.
I can't remember exactly, but anyway, regardless, it moved because they were talking about the trajectory, and they said there's no way that a bullet goes and bounces around, then goes into the back of the seat and goes into the governor. But what no one questions was whether the high-powered rifle went through Kennedy and went out of him, because that bullet wasn't still in Kennedy. We understand that. I think most people accept that. How did that bullet not come out of his neck?
How did the bullet not come out of his neck? Now I heard somebody say the government hasn't officially has not officially said it was a 30-06. It's the rifle that they found that is a 30-06. And so the gaslighting from anybody that's done any hunting ever in your life, and you've shot a high-powered rifle and you've taken down, it doesn't make any sense that, and that's the thing, we haven't seen ballistics. We haven't seen. I mean, they could. The photo of him jumping off the roof. We have 3 or 4 seconds of it. Why can't we see what happened before then?
Yeah, let's see it all.
Is there not a video of this guy prone on the roof with the rifle in hand? And why would they not show that? Why wouldn't they show that? The whole country saw what happened to Charlie. It certainly wouldn't be out of some sensitivity that we can't do this. Why Why are we not seeing it all? And maybe they're like, well, we don't want to taint the jury pool. I mean, I don't understand. At this point, how's the jury pool not tainted, man?
Yeah, well, because he allegedly gave a perfect confession to his lover.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Okay, so we go through the text message, which they put out, and immediately that gets slammed.
How convenient.
There's no timestamps on it, and immediately again, my Gen Z niece was like, "That's fake. No one talks like that." And I want to know what he was doing. Where was he when the shooting happened? Where was he for the 33 hours? 33 hours. It says that 33. What a number that it says that they what was he doing for that whole time? And then his parents allegedly get the confession out of him, and they turn him in. And he turns himself in, because isn't that what he says in the text message thread, that I'm going to turn myself in at some point, or does he not?
No, I didn't see the turn. I mean, maybe he did.
Then apparently he doesn't confess, and he's pled not guilty. So
well, I mean, they're going to plead not guilty, because if you go in and you plead guilty, then you've got to immediately go to sentencing.
Okay, right.
Sentencing, and so you're almost. I would love to have, and we talked about having my friend who is a prosecuting attorney on, and just talking about all of this stuff. Now, he's not going to give us his political beliefs or whatever, but I would love to know about charging decisions and why a person is charged with this and not charged with this and all of that stuff. But I believe that you're almost required to plead not guilty.
Yeah. Okay.
And then that kicks the can down the road.
Yeah, it starts off a whole process.
Right, because if you plead guilty, then all right, well then I sentence you to die.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Well, I don't know, man. I just I think, without going down the rabbit hole of so many of these others, I see them. I'm watching the videos just like you guys are watching the videos. I send a lot of them to Rob, and I'm like, what about this? What about that? And we haven't done like a deep dive into it, because honestly, I don't.
Maybe we do that on Slow News Day.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should just say, okay, here's alternate theory number one.
Yeah, and I want to bring in Butler at that point as well, Paul. Like I feel like we need to go down these rabbit holes of, because if we're not,
yeah, you're right.
then we're just taking the company line. Yeah. We're just towing the company line with this.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then there's some people out there that are criticizing anybody on the right for questioning whether it was Tyler Robinson. My working theory, just based on everything, is I do think he was involved in some way. I just think there was more to this than what we're being told. Whether it encompasses the trans lover, there's another theory out there that the trans lover was the actual shooter somehow. And
oh my,
and this
I haven't
guy,
heard that one.
Well, it's a theory, and again,
the trans lover, like,
he's now gone. Well, he's gone now. He's out of there, and even like you can't find him, which is probably understandable. I mean, in terms of you would probably leave, but there's the reports that the different license plates, the different vehicles that were showing up at the place of residence, that residents said, there was a lot of weird cars coming in and out of here before this happened.
And I purchased a firearm recently, and we were talking about the scope.
It's glorious, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I feel very protected with that. But regardless, I was talking about the people about it, and we mentioned the scope, and I just said that doesn't make sense. Like, that scope is way too close.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're looking through that scope at that point, you're getting a black eye.
Yeah.
From that.
It did the one they saw, and I don't even think that's the I don't know if that's the gun anymore.
It's convenient, because if that is the video of him jumping off of that roof, he didn't have a gun with him.
Yeah, and I agree. That's all the time that we have for this edition. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, which is Rob's company that he owns, Gateway Sight and Sound, T-Guard Bail Bonds. Don't forget to call Cody Powers, and Sherrod Chiropractic. Really appreciate you guys. Couldn't do the show without these great sponsors, and hopefully more to come soon. I'm going to be back on the air for the Millstone Report on Ex-American News and other platforms at noon tomorrow, noon Central. We'll talk more about this. Rob, it's always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, make sure you like and share us on all social media, and make sure you are following.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow.